Dr. Samuel Carter was a man who lived by logic and reason. He had spent most of his life studying medicine, dedicating himself to healing others. His days were filled with long hours at the hospital, treating patients and solving medical mysteries. But on one particularly stormy night, something happened that defied all explanation. A moment that would change not only his life, but also the lives of everyone around him. The rain poured down in sheets as Samuel drove home from the hospital late that evening. The wind howled, shaking trees along the road and making it hard to see more than a few feet ahead. It wasn't unusual for storms like this to hit their small town nestled between rolling hills and dense forests. But tonight felt different. There was an eerie stillness beneath the chaos, a quiet unease that made Samuel grip the steering wheel tighter than usual. As he approached the outskirts of town, where the houses gave way to open fields and abandoned structures, Samuel noticed faint lights flickering near an old barn. At first he thought it might be lightning reflecting off something or perhaps someone stranded during the storm, but curiosity tugged at him, urging him to investigate. Being a doctor, he couldn't ignore the possibility that someone might need help out there in the cold and dark. Pulling over onto the muddy shoulder, Samuel grabbed his flashlight and stepped out into the storm. The icy rain soaked through his coat almost immediately, chilling him to the bone. With each step toward the barn, the flickering lights grew brighter, casting strange shadows on the ground. When he reached the entrance, he hesitated for a moment, listening carefully. That's when he heard it, a soft whimper barely audible over the sound of the storm. Pushing open the creaky wooden door, Samuel shone his flashlight inside. The beam revealed piles of rusted tools, broken furniture, and cobwebs hanging from the ceiling. In the far corner, huddled under a thin blanket, was a figure so small it could only belong to a child. The boy looked no older than 5, his face pale and streaked with dirt. His clothes were torn and soaked, clinging to his frail body. Clutched tightly in his arms was a stuffed bear missing one eye, its fur matted and worn. Samuel's heart sank. "Hey there," he said gently, kneeling down to the boy's level. "Are you okay? What are you doing here?" The boy flinched at first, wide-eyed and trembling, but didn't respond. Instead, he pressed himself further into the corner, clutching the bear as if it were his only protection against the world. Samuel could see the fear in his eyes, the kind of fear that comes from being alone and unprotected for too long. "It's all right," Samuel continued softly, keeping his voice calm and steady. "I'm not going to hurt you. My name is Dr. Carter. I can help you." For a moment, the boy just stared at him, unsure whether to trust this stranger. Then, slowly, he nodded, tears streaming down his cheeks. Samuel removed his coat and wrapped it around the boy, shielding him from the biting cold. As he picked the child up, he realized how light he was, far too light for a boy his age. It was clear the child hadn't eaten properly in days, maybe even weeks. Back in his car, Samuel turned up the heater and handed the boy a bottle of water from his bag. The child drank greedily, spilling some of it down his chin. Though he still didn't speak, his eyes followed Samuel's every move, searching for reassurance. Samuel tried asking questions, his name, where he came from, who his parents were, but the boy simply shook his head, unable to answer. When they arrived at Samuel's modest house, the boy clung to him, refusing to let go. Samuel carried him inside and dried him off, wrapping him in warm blankets. He fixed a simple meal of soup and bread, which the boy devoured hungrily. Despite his exhaustion, the child remained wary, his gaze darting around the room as if expecting danger to appear at any moment. Over the next few days, Samuel did everything he could to care for the boy. He contacted social services, hoping they could identify the child and locate his family. But when officials arrived, the boy panicked, clinging desperately to Samuel and crying uncontrollably. It was heartbreaking to watch. Something about the way the boy looked at him, with a mixture of gratitude and desperation, touched Samuel deeply. That's when Samuel made a decision that surprised even himself. He decided to adopt the boy. It wasn't something he had ever considered before. He was a single man in his 40s, focused entirely on his career. Yet looking at the frightened child sitting silently on his couch, Samuel knew he couldn't turn away. This boy needed someone to believe in him, to give him a chance at a better life. He named the boy Ethan, choosing a name that sounded strong yet kind. From that day forward, Samuel committed himself to raising Ethan as his own son. Little did he know this act of kindness would set into motion events that would shape their lives and the fate of their entire town, in ways unimaginable. At first, life with Ethan was challenging. The boy rarely spoke, and when he did, his words were hesitant and fragmented. He seemed lost in his own world, often staring out windows or drawing pictures of shapes and symbols that made no sense to Samuel. But despite his quirks, Ethan was loving and gentle, always eager to help around the house. Over time, Samuel began to notice something extraordinary about him, something that hinted at a destiny far greater than either of them could have imagined. This was just the beginning of their story, a tale of compassion, mystery, and courage that would leave an indelible mark on everyone who witnessed it. For now, though, Samuel focused on giving Ethan the love and stability he deserved, unaware of the incredible journey that lay ahead. As the years passed, Samuel's decision to adopt Ethan proved to be one of the most rewarding choices he ever made. The once frail and frightened boy grew into a healthy, curious child who brought both joy and mystery into Samuel's life. Yet, despite the warmth of their home and the love they shared, it became increasingly clear that Ethan was unlike any other child. There was something about him, something extraordinary, that set him apart from everyone else. From an early age, Ethan displayed abilities that left even Samuel, a man of science, baffled. When Ethan was 6, Samuel bought him a simple jigsaw puzzle as a birthday gift. Puzzles were meant to challenge young minds, but within minutes, Ethan had solved it effortlessly, arranging the pieces with precision faster than Samuel could keep track. Intrigued, Samuel purchased increasingly complex puzzles, only to find that Ethan completed them all with ease. By the time he turned 8, Ethan was solving Rubik's Cubes in under 10 seconds, leaving his classmates, and even adults, at school amazed. But it wasn't just puzzles. Ethan seemed to have an innate understanding of how things worked. Once, when the washing machine broke down, Samuel called a repairman to fix it. Before the technician arrived, Ethan wandered into the laundry room, examined the machine for a moment, and then began tinkering with its inner workings. To Samuel's astonishment, the machine roared back to life, functioning perfectly. The repairman, arriving shortly after, scratched his head in confusion, declaring there was nothing wrong with it. Samuel tried to encourage Ethan's talents while keeping them hidden from others. He knew people might misunderstand or fear what they couldn't explain, and he wanted to protect Ethan from judgment. But no matter how hard Samuel tried, whispers began to spread through the small town. Neighbors noticed Ethan's unusual behavior, the way he sometimes spoke in riddles, the strange drawings he made of swirling patterns and geometric shapes, and the uncanny knack he had for knowing things before they happened. Some dismissed it as mere coincidence, but others weren't so sure. One incident in particular fueled the rumors. During a severe thunderstorm, the power went out across the entire neighborhood. Candles flickered in windows as families huddled, together, waiting for the electricity to return. In Samuel's house, however, the lights suddenly came back on. Confused, Samuel rushed to the basement to check the fuse box, where he found Ethan standing quietly, his hands resting on the panel. The boy looked up at Samuel with wide eyes and said softly, "I fixed it." Though Samuel marveled at Ethan's abilities, he couldn't shake the feeling that these talents came with a deeper purpose, one neither of them fully understood yet. Despite the challenges, Ethan remained kind-hearted and compassionate, always eager to help those in need. He often spent weekends assisting elderly neighbors with chores, carrying groceries for them or mowing their lawns. At school, he befriended children who were bullied or excluded, offering them comfort and companionship. His empathy earned him respect among his peers, though some still regarded him with suspicion. As Ethan entered his teenage years, his differences became even more pronounced. He developed an insatiable curiosity about the world, devouring books on physics, astronomy, and engineering. Late at night, Samuel would often find Ethan sitting by the window, staring up at the stars with a look of intense concentration. Sometimes, Ethan muttered to himself, sketching diagrams in a notebook filled with equations and symbols that seemed beyond his years. During one summer vacation, Ethan decided to explore the woods surrounding their town. Samuel warned him to stay close and avoid wandering too far, but Ethan assured him he'd be careful. Hours later, Ethan returned home, his face flushed with excitement. In his hands, he held a peculiar object. It was metallic, rusted, and shaped, like a flattened sphere with intricate engravings along its surface. It looked ancient, as if it had been buried underground for centuries. "Where did you find this?" Samuel asked, examining the artifact curiously. "In the woods," Ethan replied. "It was half buried near a fallen tree. I don't know what it is, but it feels important." Samuel frowned, unsure whether to believe Ethan's intuition. Still, he agreed to let Ethan keep the object, provided he kept it safe and didn't take it apart without supervision. Over the next few days, Ethan studied the artifact obsessively, turning it over in his hands and tracing its engravings with his fingers. Occasionally, it emitted a faint hum, vibrating slightly as if responding to Ethan's touch. Though Samuel couldn't explain it, he sensed that the artifact held some significance, not just for Ethan, but for the world around them. Despite his growing list of accomplishments, Ethan faced moments of doubt and loneliness. As much as he tried to fit in, he couldn't escape the fact that he was different. His classmates occasionally teased him, calling him weird or spooky. Even teachers sometimes struggled to understand him, labeling him as distracted or aloof. Through it all, Samuel remained Ethan's steadfast supporter, reminding him that being unique was a gift, not a curse. "You're special, Ethan," Samuel told him one evening as they sat together on the porch, watching the sunset. "There's nothing wrong with being different. In fact, the world needs people like you, people who see things others can't." Ethan smiled faintly, appreciating Samuel's words but still uncertain about his place in the world. Little did he know his true purpose was closer than he imagined. The artifact he had found in the woods was more than just a relic. It was a key to unlocking secrets that spanned galaxies and civilizations. And soon those secrets would thrust Ethan into the spotlight, forcing him to confront challenges far greater than anything he had faced before. For now, though, Samuel focused on nurturing Ethan's potential, encouraging him to embrace his uniqueness, while shielding him from harm. Together they built a bond stronger than blood, a partnership rooted in trust, love, and mutual respect. Unbeknownst to either of them, this foundation would prove crucial in the days to come, as events unfolded that would test their courage and redefine the very meaning of heroism. The town continued its quiet existence, unaware of the storm brewing on the horizon. For Samuel and Ethan, life carried on as usual, filled with small triumphs and quiet moments of connection. But beneath the surface, forces were aligning, forces that would change everything they thought they knew about themselves and the universe. And when the sky finally split open, revealing star destroyers looming above Earth, Ethan would discover that his destiny stretched far beyond the confines of their little town. Life in the small town continued as it always had, quiet, predictable, and uneventful. Ethan was now 17, a young man on the cusp of adulthood. He had grown into his differences, learning to navigate the complexities of being both extraordinary and human. Samuel watched with pride as Ethan balanced schoolwork, friendships, and his ongoing fascination with the mysterious artifact he'd found years earlier. Though the object remained largely dormant, emitting only occasional hums or faint glows, Ethan never stopped studying it. Deep down, he felt certain that its secrets would reveal themselves when the time was right. But nothing could have prepared them, or anyone else, for what happened next. It began on an ordinary afternoon. Ethan was walking home from school, his backpack slung over one shoulder, and his mind preoccupied with thoughts of the artifact. He had spent hours the previous night sketching its patterns and trying to decipher their meaning. Something about the engravings reminded him of constellations, though they didn't match any star maps he'd seen before. As he crossed the town square, A sudden tremor shook the ground beneath his feet. People stopped mid-step, looking around, in confusion as windows rattled and car alarms blared. "What's going on?" someone shouted. Before anyone could answer, the sky above the town split open with a deafening roar. It wasn't like a storm cloud breaking apart. It was as if reality itself tore wide open, revealing a chasm filled with darkness and light. From this rift emerged massive shapes, colossal vessels that dwarfed everything below. They were sleek and menacing, bristling with weapons and glowing with energy. Star destroyers. Dozens of them hovered silently, casting long shadows across the landscape. Panic erupted instantly. Screams filled the air as people ran in all directions, unsure whether to flee or freeze in terror. Cars screeched to a halt, drivers abandoning their vehicles in sheer panic. Children cried, clutching their parents' hands, while older residents stood frozen, staring up at the impossible sight above them. No one knew who, or what, had arrived. But it was clear they weren't friendly. Ethan stood rooted to the spot, his heart pounding in his chest. Unlike everyone else, he didn't feel fear, at least not immediately. Instead, he felt a strange pull, a connection to the ships above. His eyes darted to the artifact tucked safely in his backpack. For the first time since finding it, the object vibrated intensely, glowing brighter than ever before. Its energy resonated with the ships in the sky, creating a low hum that seemed to vibrate through every fiber of Ethan's being. Samuel arrived moments later, having rushed out of the hospital where he worked. "Ethan!" he called, pushing through the crowd. When he reached his son, he grabbed his arm tightly. "Are you all right? What's happening?" "I don't know," Ethan replied, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. "But I think it has something to do with this." He pulled the artifact from his bag, holding it up for Samuel to see. The glow intensified, pulsing, in rhythm with the vibrations coming from the ships above. Samuel stared at the object, his brow furrowing. "What is it doing?" "I'm not sure," Ethan admitted. "But I think we need to figure it out, and fast." As the initial shock wore off, the alien ships began broadcasting a message. A deep mechanical voice boomed across the town, echoing in perfect English. "Humans of Earth, this planet belongs to us. You are trespassing on sacred ground. Surrender now, or face annihilation." The words sent another wave of terror through the crowd. Some people fell to their knees, sobbing and pleading for mercy, while others scrambled to gather their families and escape. Soldiers stationed nearby attempted to respond, firing missiles at the nearest ship. But the projectiles exploded harmlessly against invisible shields, leaving the invaders untouched. Ethan watched the scene unfold with a mix of awe and resolve. Whatever these beings were, they possessed technology far beyond anything humanity had ever created. Fighting back wouldn't work, not with conventional weapons anyway. If there was any hope of survival, it lay in understanding why they had come and finding a way to communicate with them. "The artifact," Ethan said suddenly, turning to Samuel. "It's reacting to them. I think it's part of their technology, or maybe even something they left behind long ago." Samuel nodded grimly. "Then we need to find out more. But be careful, Ethan. We don't know what we're dealing with." That night, Ethan retreated to his room, the artifact resting on his desk. He studied it intently, running his fingers over its surface and listening to the hum it emitted. Each vibration felt like a piece of a puzzle clicking into place, guiding him toward answers. Finally, after hours of concentration, the object activated fully. A beam of light shot upward, projecting a holographic image onto the ceiling. It showed intricate designs, mathematical equations, and what appeared to be coordinates. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. "They're instructions," he whispered to himself. "This thing isn't just a relic, it's a key." Determined to act, Ethan packed a bag with supplies and secured the artifact carefully. He knew he couldn't sit idly by while the world descended into chaos. If these aliens wanted Earth, he needed to understand why, and stop them if possible. Leaving a note for Samuel explaining his plan, Ethan slipped out of the house under cover of darkness. His journey took him to the edge of town where the invaders had established a base camp. Their ships loomed overhead, bathing the area in an eerie green glow. Armed guards patrolled the perimeter, their insectoid forms towering over the landscape. Ethan approached cautiously, relying on the artifact to mask his presence. To his astonishment, it worked. The guards passed him without noticing, their attention focused elsewhere. Inside the command ship, Ethan moved quickly, following the artifact's guidance. It led him to a central chamber where a group of aliens gathered around a console. Their leader, a tall, imposing figure with glowing eyes and segmented armor, stood at the forefront, issuing orders in a language that sounded harsh and guttural. Despite the barrier of speech, Ethan sensed authority radiating from the creature. Summoning his courage, Ethan stepped forward, holding the artifact aloft. The reaction was immediate. The aliens froze, their heads snapping toward him in unison. The leader tilted its head, studying Ethan with curiosity rather than hostility. Then slowly, it extended a clawed hand, gesturing for him to approach. Heart racing, Ethan obeyed. As he drew closer, the artifact began to glow again, forming a bridge of light between him and the alien leader. Through this connection, Ethan experienced a flood of images and emotions, memories of a dying world, desperation, and loss. He realized the truth. These beings, known as the Velari, hadn't come to conquer. They had come to survive. Centuries ago, they had abandoned Earth after failing to revive it, believing it beyond saving. Now, desperate and misguided, they sought to reclaim it, not out of malice, but necessity. Armed with this knowledge, Ethan knew he had to act. He proposed a solution. If the Velari agreed to cease hostilities, he would help them restore their homeworld using Earth's resources and scientific advancements. In return, they would share their knowledge to heal Earth's environmental wounds. The leader hesitated, weighing the offer, before finally nodding in agreement. With the fate of two worlds hanging in the balance, Ethan returned home, ready to rally humanity and forge a new alliance. What had started as a quiet life in a sleepy town had transformed into an epic struggle for survival, and Ethan was at the center of it all. Ethan returned to his town under the cover of night, his mind racing with the weight of what he had learned. The artifact, now glowing faintly in his hands, pulsed with energy, as if urging him forward. He knew he couldn't keep this information to himself, not when so much depended on humanity's response. But how could he convince others to trust him? How could he explain that the invaders weren't monsters bent on destruction, but desperate refugees seeking salvation? Samuel was waiting for him when he slipped back into the house. His adoptive father sat at the kitchen table, a cup of tea steaming in front of him, worry etched across his face. "Where have you been?" Samuel asked, his voice tinged with both relief and frustration. "I came home and found your note. Do you have any idea how dangerous it is out there?" "I'm sorry," Ethan replied softly, setting the artifact down on the table. "But I didn't have a choice. I think I figured out why they're here and how we can stop them." Samuel frowned, leaning closer to examine the object. "What do you mean?" Ethan took a deep breath and began explaining everything. The message from the alien leader, the holographic projections, and the connection he had felt through the artifact. He described the Velari's dying world, their desperation, and their mistaken belief that Earth belonged to them. Most importantly, he shared the deal he had proposed, an alliance between humans and Velari to heal both planets. For a long moment, Samuel said nothing, his expression unreadable. Finally, he sighed and rubbed his temples. "This is a lot to take in, Ethan. You're asking us to trust beings who just threatened to destroy our planet. What makes you think they'll honor this agreement?" "They have no reason to lie," Ethan replied firmly. "Their world is dying. They need help as much as we do. If we work together, we can save both Earth and their homeworld. It's the only way." Samuel studied his son for a moment, seeing the determination in his eyes. Though the situation seemed impossible, he trusted Ethan's instincts. "All right," he said finally. "If you believe this is the right thing to do, then I'll support you. But convincing everyone else won't be easy." The next morning, Ethan and Samuel approached the town council, hoping to gain their backing. The meeting room was tense, filled with anxious faces still reeling from the invasion. News of the Star Destroyers had spread worldwide, and military forces were scrambling to respond. People feared the worst, expecting bombs to rain down at any moment. Ethan stood at the front of the room holding the artifact tightly. When he spoke, his voice was calm but firm. "I know you're scared," he began. "We all are. But these aliens aren't here to kill us. They're here because they have nowhere else to go. Their planet is dying. And they thought Earth was abandoned. They made a mistake, but we can fix it." He went on to explain his plan, detailing the exchange of knowledge and resources that could benefit both species. At first, the council members listened skeptically, exchanging wary glances. Some argued that trusting the Velari was too risky, while others worried about the potential consequences of sharing Earth's technology. But as Ethan spoke, something shifted in the room. His conviction was undeniable, and the artifact's glow lent credibility to his words. One council member, an elderly woman named Mrs. Harper, broke the silence. "You're asking us to take a leap of faith," she said slowly. "But if what you're saying is true, maybe this is our chance to build something better. Not just for us, but for everyone." Her words sparked a shift in the group. Gradually, more people began nodding in agreement, their fear giving way to hope. By the end of the meeting, the council agreed to present Ethan's proposal to higher authorities, including government officials and scientists, working to understand the invaders' technology. Meanwhile, Ethan continued reaching out to the Velari through the artifact. Each time he activated it, the connection grew stronger, allowing him to communicate more clearly with their leader. Through these exchanges, he learned more about their culture and struggles, deepening his resolve to help them. The Velari, in turn, began showing signs of cooperation. Their ships stopped firing, and they allowed human envoys to board their vessels for negotiations. As days turned into weeks, progress became visible. Teams of scientists collaborated with the Velari, studying their advanced technology and adapting it to address Earth's environmental crises. In return, humanity provided raw materials and engineering expertise to aid in reviving the Velari's homeworld. Slowly but surely, a fragile peace took root. Yet not everyone welcomed the alliance. Across the globe, protests erupted as some groups refused to accept the presence of the invaders. Conspiracy theories spread online, accusing governments of selling out humanity to alien overlords. Tensions escalated, threatening to undo the fragile truce. Back in Ethan's town, the backlash hit close to home. A group of angry residents gathered outside the council building, shouting slogans and demanding answers. One man stepped forward, pointing directly at Ethan. "You brought them here," he yelled. "How do we know they won't betray us once they get what they want?" Ethan stepped onto the steps of the building, facing the crowd despite the hostility. "I understand your fear," he said, his voice steady. "But shutting them out won't solve anything. We have a chance to create a future where everyone thrives, not just humans, but all life. Isn't that worth the risk?" His words silenced the crowd momentarily, though murmurs of doubt lingered. Still, Ethan's courage inspired others to speak up in support of the alliance. Friends, neighbors, and even strangers began sharing stories of how the collaboration had already improved their lives, from cleaner air to new medical breakthroughs developed using Velari technology. Despite the challenges, Ethan remained steadfast, guided by the lessons Samuel had taught him: compassion, resilience, and the belief that even the smallest act of kindness could change the world. Together, they worked tirelessly to bridge the gap between two vastly different civilizations, proving that understanding and cooperation were possible, even in the face of fear and mistrust. By the time the first joint mission launched, a spacecraft, carrying representatives from both species to begin restoring the Velari's homeworld, Ethan felt a profound sense of accomplishment. What had started as a quiet life in a small town had transformed into a journey of discovery, sacrifice, and unity. And though the road ahead would undoubtedly hold more challenges, Ethan knew one thing for certain: Humanity and the Velari were stronger together than apart. As he watched the ship ascend into the sky, its engines glowing brightly against the horizon, Ethan felt a surge of hope. The artifact, now dimmed and silent, rested in his pocket, a symbol of the bond between two worlds. For the first time in his life, Ethan truly understood his purpose. He wasn't just a boy who had been adopted by a kind doctor. He was a bridge between species, a hero who had dared to imagine a brighter future for everyone. The years that followed the alliance between humanity and the Velari marked a turning point in history, a new era defined by cooperation, innovation, and hope. What had once seemed impossible became reality as two vastly different civilizations learned to coexist and thrive together. At the heart of this transformation stood Ethan Carter, the boy who had grown into a man capable of bridging worlds. Ethan's role in forging the alliance earned him recognition not just in his small town, but across the globe. News outlets hailed him as a hero, sharing stories of how he had risked everything to uncover the truth about the Velari and propose a solution that saved both Earth and their homeworld. Scientists, politicians, and ordinary citizens alike looked to him as a symbol of courage and unity. Yet despite the fame, Ethan remained humble, always crediting those around him, especially Samuel, for their unwavering support. Samuel watched with pride as Ethan navigated his newfound responsibilities. Though he had always known Ethan was special, even Samuel couldn't have predicted the magnitude of his impact. "You've done something incredible," Samuel told him one evening as they sat on the porch, watching the sunset. "But don't forget where you came from, or who helped you along the way." Ethan smiled, placing a hand on Samuel's shoulder. "I'll never forget," he said softly. "None of this would have been possible without you." Their bond remained unshakable, a testament to the power of love and acceptance. Samuel often joked that adopting Ethan had been the best decision of his life, not because it made him famous, but because it gave him the chance to shape someone who could change the world. For Ethan, Samuel wasn't just a father. He was a mentor, a guide, and a constant source of strength. As the alliance deepened, so too did the benefits for both species. The Velari shared their advanced technology, which revolutionized fields ranging from medicine to renewable energy. Diseases once thought incurable were eradicated, and Earth's polluted skies and oceans began to heal. In return, humanity provided resources and ingenuity, helping the Velari restore their dying planet. Joint missions became routine, with teams traveling back and forth between Earth and the Velari homeworld to oversee restoration efforts. Yet perhaps the most profound change was cultural. Over time, humans and Velari began to understand each other better, not just through language or science, but through shared experiences. Festivals celebrating the alliance sprang up in cities worldwide, featuring art, music, and food inspired by both cultures. Schools introduced lessons about the Velari, teaching children about their history, struggles, and contributions. Slowly, but surely, fear gave way to curiosity, and mistrust transformed into mutual respect. Ethan played a central role in fostering these connections. He traveled extensively, speaking at conferences, meeting with leaders, and visiting communities affected by the alliance. Wherever he went, he carried the artifact with him, using it as a reminder of the bond between species. Though its glow had dimmed since the initial contact, it still held symbolic significance, a relic of unity and collaboration. One day, while visiting a newly established research facility dedicated to studying Velari technology, Ethan received an unexpected invitation. A delegation of Velari leaders requested his presence aboard their flagship, now stationed near Earth's moon. Curious, Ethan accepted and boarded a shuttle alongside Samuel, who insisted on accompanying him. When they arrived, the Velari leader greeted them personally, bowing low in a gesture of gratitude. "Ethan Carter," it said, its voice resonating through a translator device. "Your actions have saved not only your people but ours as well. We owe you a debt we can never repay." Ethan shook his head modestly. "We did this together," he replied. "It wasn't just me. It was everyone who believed in the possibility of peace. The leader nodded, then gestured toward a massive holographic display showing images of Earth and the Velari homeworld side by side. Our planets are healing, it continued, and our peoples are growing closer. But there is more work to be done. We wish to honor you and all humans by naming you as ambassadors of unity. Before Ethan could respond, the leader presented him with a ceremonial medallion etched with intricate designs resembling constellations. It shimmered faintly, much like the artifact had during its activation. This symbolizes our eternal partnership, the leader explained. May it remind future generations of what we have achieved together. Touched by the gesture, Ethan accepted the medallion, feeling its weight settle around his neck. He turned to Samuel, who beamed with pride. Looks like you're officially part of the family now, Samuel teased lightly, earning a laugh from Ethan. Back on Earth, news of the ceremony spread quickly, further solidifying Ethan's status as a global icon. People began referring to him as the Bridge Builder, a title that encapsulated his role in uniting two worlds. Monuments were erected in his honor, and schools were named after him, ensuring that his legacy would endure for generations to come. Despite the accolades, Ethan remained grounded, choosing to focus on practical ways to strengthen the alliance. He founded an organization dedicated to promoting intercultural exchange programs, encouraging young people from both species to learn from each other. Under his leadership, the organization flourished, becoming a cornerstone of the ongoing partnership. Years later, as Ethan stood atop a hill overlooking his hometown, he reflected on how far he'd come. What had started as a simple act of kindness, a doctor adopting an orphaned child, had blossomed into a story of courage, compassion, and unity. The town below was thriving, its streets alive with laughter and activity. Children played in parks adorned with murals depicting scenes of human Velari collaboration, while adults worked side by side on projects aimed at improving their shared future. For Samuel, seeing Ethan transform from a frightened lost boy into a savior of two worlds filled him with immense pride. Their journey together had been unpredictable, filled with challenges and triumphs alike. Yet through it all, their bond had remained steadfast, a shining example of the power of love and acceptance. As night fell, Ethan gazed up at the stars, now brighter than ever thanks to the cleaner atmosphere. Among them, he spotted the faint glimmer of the Velari homeworld, a distant beacon of hope. He thought about the artifact tucked safely away in his home, no longer glowing but still holding untold potential. Someday, he knew, another generation might unlock its secrets, continuing the legacy of exploration and discovery. Turning to Samuel, who stood beside him, Ethan smiled. "Thank you," he said simply, "for everything." Samuel chuckled, patting him on the back. "Don't thank me yet," he replied. "We've still got plenty of work to do." And so, hand in hand, they descended the hill, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Together, they had proven that no obstacle was insurmountable when met with kindness, determination, and a willingness to embrace the unknown. Their story, a tale of adoption, growth, and heroism, would inspire countless others, reminding the world that even in the darkest times, light could shine through. The sky above sparkled with promise, a testament to the enduring bond between two species united by a shared vision of peace. And somewhere among the stars, the artifact hummed softly, waiting for the next chapter of its journey to begin.